Hi, this is Brad, and we saw a hint about something that may be a major clue into how COVID-19 spread so quickly and how it continues to spread so quickly. It came from an article that I've posted and talked about before about the hygiene methods used in Chinese hospitals, the methods that they discovered that they had to use. Now, they didn't know how contagious this thing was. They didn't know that it had a 5-day latency period. So people were getting contaminated and going home to their families with it. They were also walking around the hospital and contaminating other patients, not COVID-19 patients, other patients. Now, obviously, a lot of people in the hospital are already very sick. So it's the perfect environment to cause people to get sick and to die. I have not seen anybody talk about this, and I haven't seen any numbers. And here's my question. What percentage of people who've died of COVID-19 actually caught the infection in the hospital? Nobody is talking about that. Now, there's something else that I want to talk about, which is I've seen this. I know you've seen it too. Have you ever been in a restaurant or a convenience store or on the subway in New York City and seen a hospital worker wearing their scrubs? Okay, sometimes they're on their way to work, okay, but sometimes they're on their way home from work. This is considered normal, and I have a bunch of links posted about this on this page, and you can read about it. This is, pre-pandemic. So just to make it absolutely clear, it was completely normal pre-pandemic for nurses, hospital workers, whatever, to go to work, gather God knows what germs and viruses and contaminants, and go out to eat, go to the store. Don't forget, feet. Feet move a lot of contamination, right? Get on the subway. I saw that a lot when I was in New York City. And somebody just wrote me from in LA today, March 27th, in the middle of this deadly pandemic, there are hospital workers walking around LA in their scrubs. Okay, so let's look at the scenario here. Somebody got COVID-19, patient one, and we'll assume that he was in Wuhan, and he went to the hospital. Nobody knew what he had. I don't know what the hygiene standards are in Chinese hospitals. I know what they are in U.S. hospitals, i.e. very poor. So the guy shows up. Nobody knew what the disease was. People checked him in, people moved him from one room to another, people did this, people did that, and they got contaminated. Then they proceeded to walk around the hospital and spread it to the rest of the staff and other people in the hospital. Then they went home and they proceeded to contaminate their families. And their family members then went out and proceeded to contaminate neighbors and others. Okay? I have a feeling that if anybody ever does a proper study of how this thing spread in the first place and how it continues to spread, they're going to find that the major source of the contamination is hospitals and hospital workers and the lack of hygiene that they practice after their shift. I looked on the internet to see how many hospitals have showers for workers. Very rare. Very rare. Okay? So there we have it. How did this thing spread so fast? Why did it get into the population so quickly? I mean, how many people work in hospitals? A lot. I don't think I have anything more to say about this. I think it's pretty clear cut. Hopefully somewhere somebody will start to look at this. And clearly, now in China, at least in one hospital, in February, they got the clue that they had to take extreme precautions, not only in handling patients, but also, I guess, in post-shift cleaning. Now, I saw an article in the Boston newspaper, big Boston newspaper, and it's a hospital administrator who's mystified why so many of his workers have COVID-19. And he's saying they're not catching it here. They must be catching it in their community. It must be community contact. Well, I think that's completely illogical. If there's a huge concentration of people with COVID-19 who happen to be working in hospitals, isn't it plausible, given the nature of hospitals, that this is where people are actually catching it? And for him to turn around and say, oh, well, they must be getting it from the outside. They must be bringing it into the hospital. is ludicrous. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. So again, I hope somewhere, somehow, this gets out and somebody starts looking into it, because if they don't, the problem's just going to keep spreading. It was one of the things I wanted to talk about on this topic, and unfortunately I can't remember it. I'm working without notes. But the idea that they are ascribing the spread of this disease to casual contact between human beings, I think is a little shaky. And I think what they should be looking very closely at is the hygiene procedures during the work shift, and at least as importantly after the work shift. And if hospital workers are going home with the same shoes, for example, that they wore on their hospital shift, sometimes in their scrubs, without having bathed, and going to all various different stores and restaurants and other errands before they go home, and then going home to their families, I think we have a major problem here. And that may be the overwhelming source of a lot of these infections. So that's brass check.